know how to interpret or discern the present time. You can look, when you see the cloud in the west, you know that rain's coming. And if there's a south wind, you say it's going to be a hot day. God gives us wisdom apart from being a prophet. You just have to be in tune. You know, discernment is a God-given gift. It's an ability to foresee things. The main thing is God's not going to leave you out to dry if you're a child of His. You know, I study Israel under a microscope, so to speak. I learn their holidays, their culture, learn their language. It's a supernatural way God has put them in my heart. I can't explain it, so I'm not even going to try. So let's go on. Since the war happened last week, the Israelis call it Operation Lion's Roar. The United States calls it Operation Epic Fury. Why can't we have a cool name? You know, the war just so happened on the very weekend of a Jewish holy day, or what we call a holiday, on the one the Jewish people celebrate, that by chance involved Iran, or as the Bible calls it, Persia. Persia was Persia up until 1935 when the Shah changed it to Iran. Does anybody know what holiday was just celebrated? Purim. Does anyone know what year it is on the Islamic calendar? It's 1447. And Saturday, do you know the month? It was the 9th month. What day was it last Saturday? The 11th. That was their 9/11 that happened. Purim came about from a wicked man named Haman, and Haman is a descendant of King Agag, an Amalekite. Esther 3 verse 1 says, after all this took place, King Ahasuerus, which his father is King Darius, honored a man, son of Hammedatha the Agag, which Haman. Exodus 17 tells us the children of Israel was attacked by the Amalekites, and that the story, if you remember, where Moses had to hold up his arms, and every time he'd hold them up, the Israelites would win, and when they'd fall, the Amalekites would win. So in verse 14 it says, God told Moses to write this down for a memorial in a book, for I will blot out the memory of the Amalekites from under the heavens. Then in verse 16, he said the Lord will have war with Amalek from generation to generation. So how does that person make it generation? Because it's the spirit. So fast forward now, King Saul in 1 Samuel 15. The Lord told King Saul, go down and strike down the Amalekites. Kill them all. So King Agag, he was an Amalekite. So of course Saul didn't do that. Samuel had to go kill King Agag. And that was the last time Samuel ever seen Saul until his death. But every Sabbath or Shabbat in the Jewish synagogues all over the world, they read from a scroll, something that was set millennia ago. So it's not like they can just go pick something to read. Everything is set. And last weekend's, it was called Shabbat Zikron, or the Sabbath of Remembrance. Last weekend's word was this: remember what Amalekite did to you when you came out of Egypt, how he confronted you on the way and attacked among you the stragglers in the back when they were tired and weary, and didn't fear God. So it shall come about when the Lord your God has given you rest from all the surrounding enemies in the land the Lord has given you as an inheritance to possess. You will wipe out the name Amalek from under heaven. You must not forget. Coincidence? No. So let's fast forward 2,500 years. 2,433 years, actually, after Haman, which, remember, he has Amalekite blood, tried to kill all the Jews in Persia, in Shushan, which is a town in Persia, which, by the way, is the very town that Nehemiah was a cupbearer, and Daniel had one of his visions. So this is the story of Queen Esther in the book of Esther, how one evil man, Haman, had deceived the king and built gallows for the destruction of the remaining Jews in Persia. The Greek word for gallows is Zulon, X-U-L-O-N, and it means tree, wood, cross, staff. It was something constructed measuring 50 cubits high and roughly 75 feet tall. That's pretty big. So Haman would say, death to the Jews, kill all the Jews, which is kind of familiar today. That's what we hear coming from Iran today: death to the Jews, death to America, death to Israel. It's the same spirit. The same spirit that controlled Haman controlled Khamenei. That's the ex-president, or ex-supreme leader of Iran. Now, by that very contraption that Haman built to kill the Jews, God worked it out that by that very device, Haman was killed. Now let's look at the present day Haman. To really tie it together, something would need to be associated with the name Haman. And if we take the leader of our ex-leader of Iran, Persia, and you can see up here Khamenei, and if you remove 3 letters, the K, the I, and the E, you have Haman. So it's the same spirit, And he was taken out by the very devices that he tried to kill the Jews with, missiles. So we go to Mordecai. Mordecai was Queen Esther's uncle. He was son of one of the captives from Babylon. So pop quiz, does anybody know why they wear a mask and dress up during Purim? Because Queen Esther's Jewish identity was kept hidden until the proper time. And although the book of Esther doesn't mention God, it's that God's perfect plan was hidden. The name Purim comes from the ancient dice called Pur, P-U-R, that Haman rolled to see where he would activate his plan to destroy the Jews, which by God's grace was 11 months. You know through all this that it can only be God. There is no other way. So by the end of this, we know Iran has to be there in the end. If you read Ezekiel 38, 39, they've got to be against Israel and be joined with several other countries. But just know that God is real. His ways cannot be stopped.